Hi, welcome to WP Auto Schema. WP Auto Schema is a WordPress plugin that automatically adds 4 types of schema to each of your WordPress pages and posts, no matter how old they are. Schema, if you're not familiar with it, is a structured data vocabulary that's used to define the entities on a website or web page. An entity would be an article, written content, a video, an image, and the organization itself. Those are the 4 types of schema that we currently generate. They're the basics to help Google understand precisely what your web pages are about without having to parse the content and try to understand what it is you're presenting. The schema that we generate is actually built at the time that the first time a page or post is accessed by a search engine crawler or by an individual viewing the page. At the time that we generate it, we cache it locally so that we don't have to make API calls or spend time generating it the second time the page is accessed and in the future. New schema will be generated if you update or change the content on a page. So that's just briefly what it's all about. So let's take a look at what it actually looks like. I'm going to jump into the setup page itself. When you install the plugin, you'll find the access to the settings under Settings in the left-hand menu, WP Auto Schema. And there are only 4 input fields at this time. Your license key, of course, your YouTube API key. Takes just 2 or 3 minutes to get a new API key. The instructions are in this little video right here. And each API key is good for 10,000 calls a day. But since we cache the results of your video schema and everything else, it only needs to do it one time. It doesn't do it continuously. So 10,000 calls a day is plenty for just about anybody's website. The other input field is for a logo URL. The reason that we ask that you define a specific logo is because we can't guess what your logo is, obviously, and the logo URL is required in a lot of the schema entries that we build. It's a schema requirement. It's not our requirement. We do provide a default for you. It's a little 5x5 pixel image that never gets loaded anyway. It's simply a reference for the schema. But if you do use your own, you should optimize that image because Google will crawl over and take a look at it, and when it finds a URL in the schema entries. The other input field is the date format, or the date filter, excuse me. The format's automatic. You just click on here and pick a date that you want to set. That date prevents the plugin from generating schema for newer pages and posts. If you have started recently or any time in the past adding schema to your web pages and you don't want us to generate entries for it, you just set that date, and then anything on or after that date will be bypassed for generating the schema. So let's take a quick look at what the generated schema looks like. This web page has organizational schema. We have 30 videos on this page. This is something that I find I found interesting when I did this post. This is an auto-generated post from some other software, but it has 30 different videos listed on the page. So we generated 30 different video schema objects for for that one page. So this gives me an idea, and I think it should give you an idea too, that if you have a variety of videos, or even if you have only 3 or 4 or 5 videos on a website, you might consider putting them all into a list on one page, because we'll generate that schema for it. Google will crawl the schema and pick up your images one more time. We have an article schema. This is what it looks like. The specification is an article headline is the first sentence of the article. Let's take a look at this one. This might be a little bit more well, it's a little bit better looking article. The other one was auto-generated content. Anyway, takes the first sentence as the headline for the article, and then takes the first 6 sentences after that as the article body. So this is only representative of the content, but another tip, I guess, something that this made me realize, is that the most important part of my web page, where everybody talks about building, putting the good content up above the fold, the first 6 sentences are going to be very important as far as your rankings, so on and so forth. Now, the schema, of course, the idea behind doing the schema is to help you rank, to make it easier for Google to understand what your web pages are all about, and be able to serve it up to people that have an interest in exactly what it's all about. So take a look at one other one here real quick. I wanted to make a point of these images. This particular page has 24 images on it, and each one of those images has alt text. So it is picked up as the caption for the image object, if you notice there. So it just has an object URL, content URL, that's the same thing, and a list of financial information collected for the background check report being the alt text for that image. And that image probably is a picture of some financial documents, I would guess. So another little tip, everybody talks about how important for accessibility and everything else that alt tags are, but there's a pretty good example of what why it's so important from a schema standpoint. This is a video object. What we do is we take the entire description of the video to put it in here. That's up to 5,000 characters. It's the limit for Google descriptions. But also take note of the fact that the thumbnail URL is also inserted in here. So again, if you do image optimization, be sure you use optimized images for your YouTube thumbnails. That's about it. That's a little less than 10 minutes, quick overview. If you have any further questions about WP Auto Schema, there'll be a link to our help desk somewhere on the page. You probably have to go get down past the buy buttons to find it, but that's just the way things are. Again, we build tools. We don't build hype. We don't sell get rich. We don't sell instant rankings. We just build good tools. Thank you for your time.